Hello again, and tonight we're going to talk about CRM, and CRM in particular as a development tool, I suppose, as a development platform. And we're going to talk about application lifecycle management, because as CRM grows and gets into more and more organizations and environments, people, and enterprises, it goes to enterprise, in the direction of the enterprise, people start asking questions like, well, what do I do? How do I integrate CRM into my environment? How do I avoid Microsoft Access style people who go in and start modifying things and then say, yep, that's it, that's your solution. But we need to make it a part of the enterprise, part of the process. So the goal for tonight is to basically learn for that. How many of you seen CRM or use? How many of you actually use CRM? 1, 2, 3. Adam, don't. You. Okay. How many of you use CRM as development platform? How many of you? So 2. Okay. So how many of you seen CRM? Okay, so, yep, okay, so that's better. So almost everyone's seen CRM in action, but we're going to learn just a bit about what CRM actually is. What dynamic CRM is, not just any CRM, just what dynamic CRM is. And we're going to talk about, the second part is important goal is for you guys to understand what development process is. Some of you already may know that, but for those who never seen or never touched CRM development, just to understand what's involved, what are the components. It's not, for example, like how does it compare to writing code or building a website, and what are the different ingredients? What are you cooking? So what are the ingredients? And the third goal is to basically to show you that CRM, how CRM and ALM, how work together, how CRM can become a part of ALM. It's certainly possible, and we'll show you the essential steps to achieve that. So, for tonight we're going into CRM overview. I'll show you around different components, what we can do around. I'm going to talk about CRM solutions, how to build CRM solutions, what's involved, how to put together different things. Just show you some simple stuff so you understand what's involved. Then I'm going to talk about how to develop a CRM, how to organize your environment, what are the different challenges, what are multiple challenges in organizing the development environment, the test environment, or production, how to move your bits and pieces around between developers, how to share. And the fourth and the last bit is how ALM is involved. Now, small quiz. Now we put it online as well. So what is dynamic CRM? And well, these are real, actual answers I've heard at some point in my CRM career. It's a SharePoint template. SharePoint add-on was another variation. It's a new version of Northwind database. It's a business contact manager for Office 365 because it gets deprecated on the desktop and it moves to Office 365. It's enterprise solution for call centers, and it's development platform, right? And well, the correct answer is the last one, and common misunderstanding is that saying it's a customer relationship management system. No, it's a development platform with customer relationship management system is being delivered out of the box on that platform. So, so what is it? It's glamorized address book. Yes? I've seen solutions, and we do have customers who use it as glamorized address book. What they want, they're saying we want a shared directory, shared contacts, shared accounts, information about that, and I want, when someone emails our customers, I want to have a copy of that email. When someone calls our customer, so they want activities. They want to record all the activities. So we call this out of the box, and we call it glamorized address book. So it goes in, typically for small companies, works wonders. People happy, you know, typically size 1 to 5 users, and they're very happy to use it. And they never go outside of Outlook to use it, actually. They use embedded interface, embedded Outlook interface. The second kind of style of implementation is it's a customer relationship management system. So you go in and you learn what's the typical CRM is. You go and say, oh, what does Salesforce do? Oh, yes, you have contacts, accounts, you've got your activities, and then you have opportunities, you have quotes, you've got invoices, you've got products, you've got support. So effectively the 3 essential ingredients, it's a sales, marketing, and customer service. And all respected CRM systems, they have these 3 ingredients, 3 areas or 3 components. But then people stop there and say, yeah, okay, so big deal. So here we step into XRM bit. Hold on, and if we can we put sound on? That's been put together by, well, not by CRM team, but by CRM marketing team quite some time ago. In fact, the intent to build a platform and not just a solution was there from the very beginning. I'd say from CRM 3, there was intent to build a platform. Instead of just giving you a solution. So we're going to talk about CRM, CRM 2011, currently in rollup 15. That's the current version. And I'll just go through, we're not going to stop on the interface, just going through some screenshots. So as you can see, that's the typical CRM screen. So you have on the left-hand side, let's try that again. On the left-hand side, you've got navigation, or what's called sitemap. On top, you have, like here, this is ribbon. You've got lists, say in this particular case, a list of contacts. Then you have forms. So each entity can live inside the form where, sorry, yeah. So each entity can be represented inside the form, so you can edit it and create and so forth. And then the other powerful feature you can have, say, inside CRM, you can have workflow. Similar, if any of you touch SharePoint, basically you define business processes inside CRM. And then last but not least, you have your development environment where you can actually sorry, excuse me. So I have to take. Yeah. No, SSW. Yeah. You sure? Okay. Okay. You know what? We're not going to talk about 2011. We're going to talk about 2013. Yep. Okay. So it's just some of you may know, just been released. We skipped it from the news on 7th of October. CRM 2013 Online is officially released. CRM on premises, it's downloadable. It is RC1, same build. So I'm not sure what they're up to in terms of features, what's missing, what's not. I know a couple of things that is missing, say from SDK, but functionality-wise, what you're downloading is the same build that you would get online. So if you get to CRM Online, you can provision, and that would be the same if you get CRM on premises. Download the CRM server, yes?
But if you get it online, can you still develop on the platform?
Yes, you can. There are some differences. There are some differences between online and on premises. Let's just hold on a bit. When I talk about relevant pieces, I'll point out the differences. So let's go and have a look. So here I have, this is fresh new look. You've seen the screenshots of the 2011. Now let's see what's different. I'm just going to show you around and point out the differences. The left-hand side, it's gone. Where did it go? Here. Okay. So here you've got your sales service, the panels on the left-hand side in 2011. So you've got them on top. So the sitemap moved on top. You're saying, where's the ribbon now? If we go in, let's say we go in sales accounts and go into individual account. Here, here's my, I keep sliding, here's my ribbon. So it's all made, there are two objectives. The first, increase the real estate. Second part, and I just straight through, is this. I'm just going to show it. I'm not going to reflect on the screen, but just to get the idea, this is iPad, and this is native app.
That's an app?
It's an app. What you see here, it's an app. Downloadable, it's available in on App Store, iTunes, so you can download, install. It will ask you for URL of your organization, so currently you can only use it against CRM Online. So you put in URL, connects through, and you're done. So it's very much focused on the native experience. If you see the phone number, you tap it. On iPad, it launched, on my iPad, it launched Skype. And it simultaneously created activity, a phone call activity. So it's down the track, it will bring like native capabilities, like GPS capabilities and things like that. So, yep.
So I'm very surprised to see the CRM team develop a native app rather than just use a
browser.
Use the beautiful HTML5 they've just produced.
They do. You can use browser. In fact, on one of the commands here, when you go into, let me go into account, let's say into account, say at the bottom, I'm just going to show you. I know it's not very visible, but when you pull out on the account, no, I don't want a new one. Anyway, it's not particularly visible, but there is a button for each record. There is a button open in browser. So if you want, you can open it in browser. And the HTML that is produced for the browser, it's got nice reflow capabilities. So it will reflow, it will be nice, it will look really nice in the browser. So if you want to use browser, you can use browser. But native app gives you an additional capabilities. We're not going into details how it's layered, but basically it gives you additional capabilities that is device specific. It gives you access to the camera, to GPS. What else? What are the sensors there are on devices these days? Don't know. Adam, do you know what are the sensors? The device specific stuff. You don't have GPS on your laptop, but you do on your iPhone, iPad, tablet, Windows 8 phone. Yeah, so your CRM will get access to that. So effectively, there are tablet, Windows 8 app in the App Store, and there is an iPad app. Okay, so there are two. On the phone, again, there is a nice UI. Let's see if I can get this UI here, just to show what it looks like. Yep, that's what you get on the phone. So imagine the form factor of the phone. So it will be really nice and easy. And that's browser. That's not native app. So we've got different platforms cover it in release. So the release, in terms of coming back to the UI, the release focused on usability for touch devices as well as freeing up real estate. And the one significant difference from CRM 2011, it's a single window app. So no more, there are dialogues popping up when they need some input from the dialogue, right? But then you go back and all the navigation is within, I can use back button and go between different screens, and it's all the same window. This is very essential. The other substantial changes in UI is, well, I'm editing this. Where's my save button? Okay.
So how do we undo what we just did incorrectly?
You don't save. The save button's there, but it's an auto save. If you're concerned, people are concerned, they're saying, yeah, okay, type rubbish and get saved. You can disable it if you want to. In fact, the way scripts were built in 2011 is that most organizations I know with complex solutions that gets upgraded, they disable this feature. It kind of requires interaction between developers and users and understanding what's happening. But it's a nice feature. It certainly improves the UI and makes it quick and easy to use.
George, is there any undo functionality, like change the
Phone number and see if you can undo it
Control Z will do it.
after saving.
No. No, not really. As I said, it's been brought up many, many times. CRM team believes that it's essential functionality. If undo is important, then simply do not enable autosave or disable it. By the same token, if now you edit and you press save, there's no undo either, right? Right now. So, but I see potential for the good product with undo. There is the audit logs, right? You can enable audit and have it all available to you. There is no simple undo functionality. And look, in all my years experiences, it's rarely asked for.
You must have different customers to me. It's a very common question. People make a mistake, they want to see what they made, and they want to undo it.
Yeah, they can see what they made.
All right,
but
change the phone number and see.
No. What I'm saying is, if you enable audit, you can go back and see what was there. But it's the audit is not a user-friendly facility. It's more of it's an audit facility.
Can you pull out that current record into its own window and then continue on?
It is in its own window.
Oh, that's that one record, right?
It's a one window.
Okay.
Okay, so the other very, very important changes or additions, like let's go to the opportunities. It's a typical, mind you, that's a neat trick. I'm using, who's got mouse with the tilting wheel? Right? You don't have one, get one, okay? This is the best mouse on the market, that's officially. Take my word for it. Logitech M700 series, the battery lasts forever. You can throw it against the wall, pick it up, and it will work, right? It's rigid, the form factor is beautiful, everything works. They've got neat feature. You see this little button, you can push it up and down, and the wheel switches between discrete motions when it goes tick, 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 so you can stop in time, and free rotation, which gives you like huge scroll. So it's brilliant, okay? And it's got the tilt on the wheel. So what I'm doing now to scroll, I'm just tilting the wheel with my finger. Just tilt the middle wheel with your finger, and it just goes.
And that acts like a navigation.
Yeah, horizontal. It actually gives you a scroll, horizontal scroll in the browser, Word, and things like that. And once you're used to it, you never want to go back. So anyway, let's go. What I wanted to go to is in sales into opportunities. And one of the things in CRM 2011 was that there was a notion of the, in CRM 3, there was even an explicit notion of a sales process that you go through. Then I said, no, we're going to the workflow, and the workflow is going to support your sales processes. And they did, and the Windows workflow is at the back of it, and it's fine. I said, no, it's not particularly user-friendly, is it? So 2011 kind of lingered on the concept, and in 2013, what happened is, as a new notion of the business processes that are editable by users, can spread multiple entities. So you create a lead, which is a record, a human record, right? Then this lead has an opportunity, which is I intend to buy 25 widgets, right? Then you go to the quoting, and then you convert that lead to a contact, and then you close the sale, you produce invoice. So now workflow can span all those steps and different types of records, entities. And you can put a very rigid sales processes in place, or very loose, but it's very clear at each stage for the user what needs to be done to move, to progress. You currently at proposal stage, right? And then effectively what you need to do is identify sales team, develop proposal, and move on to the next stage. And now you are, to close it, to close the opportunity, you need final proposal, present final proposal, confirm decision. All these fields are configurable, say, and you can add your own fields, and you can have this nice business processes, and there will be a library of canned, sort of pre-made business processes, like a templates available for download. So you can download and install, and it's just going to be there. Because in a reasonable size organization, that's the first thing they ask. They say, we've got these sales processes and we want to have them. Or support. It's not necessarily just sale. Say if someone calls you, what is your support process, so you go in, and in service you have cases. So for each case, when some customer calls, what do you do? What questions you need to ask? What do you need to establish? Is it a genuine problem? Is it a genuine customer? So you go through the identifying who the customer is. Is there an existing case similar to that? Then you go to the research stage. This is typical sales process. So we're not going to stop particular, but it's a big new thing, right? The other thing that is big for developers is what's called PBL, or Portable Business Logic. Its ability to modify user interface without, put some logic into your UI without writing a line of script. So in 2011, the only way to do some scripting, to implement behaviors like, I want, this field, if gender is female, I'm not going. If gender is male, I'm not going to ask customer about bra size, for example. I don't know. That's probably the worst example ever, but but something that there are some conditional logic that you can put right in there. Let's say if customer turnover is more than 1 million, it's mandatory to have their CFO details recorded as a contact, right? So we want for large companies. So you can do stuff like that. You say, if this box contains more than $1 million, right, then make this field mandatory. So you can, currently the only way to do it is scripting, JavaScript. In 2013, you can do it without invoking, like users can do it, throw it together and say, if that, then this, right? So it's called Portable Business Logic. It's a great extension. It's early days, so there's some limitations what you can do, but it's a great stuff. For developers, I'm not going to go through all the features. For developer, there is a Yammer integration. That goes across Microsoft products, so across product families. Yammer was brought into Microsoft. So now, how many of you know what Yammer is? Okay.
Solution looking for a problem.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, okay, I buy that. But anyway, it's enterprise Facebook. There's no better. It's kind of very channeled social interaction. So you can have multiple groups from multiple companies. Companies of a substantial size do find it useful because the conversations can be channeled, can be monitored. You can participate. You can tune out what you're not interested in. It's not about your friends. It's about your colleagues. It's about your interests. So there's a specific differences between, say, Facebook or Google Plus and Yammer. And Yammer fits nicely into enterprise world. So now CRM does integrate with Yammer. So you can have your activities or things that happen in CRM, you can record them as Yammer posts. Okay? So currently in CRM, you have, if you got here, you've got this wall, what's new, right? That's implemented using feature called activity feeds. It's part of CRM. But you can replace it. If you have Yammer account, you can replace it with the Yammer feed. Very similar, but integrates with the Yammer. So effectively, your non-CRM people can see what's going on in CRM, right? And that opens you up in the enterprise to a much larger audience. So if you close a huge sale, it will post it to Yammer, and organization as whole will know about it, whether they use CRM or not, doesn't matter. For programmers, quite important bit, I suppose, we got excited about it, is synchronous workflows. Workflows, by default, in 2011, they were asynchronous. So you fire it up and say, when customer record gets created, send welcome email to the customer. It's at the back somewhere, it's doing something, right? So now there is a new notion. When I create, when I go in, and let's go into, come on. when I go into settings, and on the settings, I'll go to, here's your auditing. I'll go to processes. So when I create a new process, and that's where the dialog comes in. Yeah, there are places where dialog takes its place. So there's a process name, but this is an interesting one. There used to be only 2 in CRM 2011. Now there are 4. So actions, that's what I call that's synchronous workflow for you. Business process flow, that's I just showed you. That's step-by-step process, whether it's sales, marketing, or whatever. There are dialogues and the workflow in the typical. The last 2 are what's been in 2011. But the actions are very important because they synchronous workflows. For example, close sale, and you can do multiple things within that close sale process. And guess what happens then? You can expose it in API as your custom message. So your programmers can start writing close sale, and it just executes whatever you defined at the back end. Right? And it's synchronous, it modifies the data straight away. So, and it's really for developers, it's been like, yay. Yes, Adam?
George, I know you're close to the team, so I was just wondering how much of this was done in MVC and how much in the older ASP web forms?
Whoa. Today I just discovered that all the scripting in CRM was done in Script Sharp. That was interesting. I didn't know that, but all the scripting apparently was done in Script Sharp. As far as application itself, I have no idea. You mean the what did they use, whether it was MVC or forms?
Yeah, well, this feels like MVC. No,
I don't
actually,
know. Honestly, I
Right.
don't know. Look, you can pull it. It's all there. It sits. It's a web server, so it sits there. You can go in and you can make an educated.
Do you know if they
guess.
use the web API?
No, I don't believe so. It's going there. A web API to talk to themselves? No, CRM exposes endpoints or API via SOAP. And now the second way is OData. So there are 2 ways to expose it. It's not web API, so it's either SOAP or OData. So I'm not sure what the plans are. I'll tell you more probably after November. So, but I'll talk about API a bit later on. So anyway, let's go back to the presentation. So there are different components, right? There are schema. There's entities, attributes, relationships, option sets, which are pick lists. Like gender could be a pick list, you know, male, female, undefined, whatever. Could be industry codes, for example. It's a standard or list of countries. It could be a pick list. Or global option set. It used to be called pick list, but now option sets. So then user interface, you've seen there are forms. There are different resources. I'll show you what resources are. Sitemap, that is moved up now, and ribbons is basically a set of commands applicable to your current UI, whether it would be a list or a form. Then there are analytics. You've seen the dashboards, and there are reports, which I didn't show you, but they are standard SSRS reports. Now, TJ, you asked about differences. Well, on premises, you do have access to your SSRS. You do have access to your reporting server. Online, you obviously don't. So the only way to get to your reports is to run them. You can publish them, upload and publish them there, but you can't do any back-end magic like schedule reports. Not quite, but you can't email reports, for example. So there are some limitations there. Okay. Then there is templates. There is mail merge, there are email templates, there are contracts and articles, KP articles. You can create templates. And then there is a security. There are roles, there are field security, and so forth. So before we talk about solution, let's go in and create something in CRM. I'll just show you, like a developer, I got CRM from scratch, I loaded test data into it. That's just importing sample data. There is actually a command in there that says import sample data. So you can suck it in, done. And you can actually create your own sets of sample data. So you're not limited to what's there. It's just a bunch of XML files, I believe. A bunch of XML files in a certain folder. So if you put your XML files there, it will load them up. Anyway, so let's go and let's say the task I picked up to do two things. The one, I want to add ACN number. We're in Australia, so we've got companies' numbers. I want to add ACN number, and I want to make sure that ACN number is 9 digits. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. Okay. So, and we do it for accounts. So I can go in, it's one way to go in. I'll go form, pops up my user interface, and here's your beautiful form. So I'm saying ticket number, who needs ticket number? I want new field, and my new field, and here it comes. What's this prefix thing? Now, when CRM was developed, they asked, well, there is developer A, he's developer B, he's ISV A, ISV B. How you tell the differences when they both add ACN number or they both add entity called projects? How are you going to resolve that? So from in 2011, is basically they introduced the concept of the solution. And you can see here it says, default solution, right? So what is it? Okay, I'll just go out of this page. Mind you, I'm using Firefox, as you noticed, if you picked it up. It's a Firefox. I find it most pleasant browser for CRM purposes. No, I used Chrome for a while, tuned out. It wasn't performing well. Firefox for CRM, I find it the fastest browser. And Chrome was driving me nuts with its pop-up dialogues. It just wouldn't keep tabbed. Yeah, I know there is add-in for Chrome, but it just was all over the place. So I don't know, sometimes IE, sometimes, but my primary browser is Firefox these days. So go back between them, I don't know, sometimes IE, because it's a Microsoft site and they want it. ActiveX or something like this. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, so let's go in, and remember this. We'll go in settings, we'll go to customizations. And here's the notion of publishers. That's how you declare yourself to be a publisher. So there are currently default publisher. Each organization, CRM organization, has its own default publisher. I've got Acme, it's my company, organization, deployment. And then there is Microsoft Dynamics. That's activity feeds that I mentioned. They're published by this company. So I'm declaring myself as a publisher. Let's say George Doubinski. And here's my prefix. I say GD is my prefix. And it's option value prefix. If someone's got industry codes, specific, and then another vendor brings in industry codes, right? How you tell one from another, if it's the same field, for example. They use the same field. So that gives you a resolution, separate one from another. Okay, so that's all I need to do for now. So I've got this publisher now. And now what I can do, I can go into customizations, and I'm saying that I'm going to work within the solution. So I'm creating new solution, and I'm putting the display name is super duper, and the publisher is me, and the version is 1.0. Okay, there's the option configuration page, but we will skip it for now. So, and I'll just save this solution. So what it gives me is ability now to bring stuff into that solution. Okay, so I'm saying I'm going to work on accounts. It's existing entity, so I'm bringing it in, and I'm bringing accounts in. Now the second dialog is, it says, hey, look, your accounts, they're linked to multiple thingamabobs, activities, contacts, activity feeds, service entity. Would you like to bring those into solution to manage dependencies? And the correct answer is no, because it wants to bring everything, and you don't really want, you want hand pick. You really need to know what to pick. All those components, mind you, they're system components. So I know they're going to exist on the target system. So now we have this accounts, and I'm going to the forms, and this is my main form. And here I remove the ticker symbol, and I'll do new field, and here's my prefix, okay? So I'll call it ACN, and I'll make it 9 digits. And it's a text. Created a field, here it is. I'll just drop it here. Okay? So now I need to save the form and publish. There is a step called publishing. So now my changes are saved but not published yet, so users can still see the old form. So I publish my form, and now when I go back to my accounts, and I go in, and you see this ACN. Well, I can't type more than 9, but I just saved rubbish. This is not ACN. So yeah, well, guys, digits only, please. So how do you do that? Well, need a bit of script, so we'll just go back, and I'm saying on the form properties, I need to add script. So I need to hook up, before the save, I need to get value of that field. If it's not 9 digits, I want to say bugger off. That's all I want to do. And I don't want to do it on when user leaves the field because of the autosave. It's just easier on save, so they get prompted and then they can go back and fix it up. Anyway, so now form libraries, what is that? Remember resources? So now we're talking about resources. So what I want to do is, and I'll do it straight from here. It's looking for web resource. I'm saying, well, I don't have one, so let's create, and it's called account.js, because that's the script that will have this logic. So, and this is different types of resources. You can have HTML and embedded. You can have style sheets, JavaScript, XML as data, like configuration data or what's not. Different images, Silverlight of all things, and icons. So we're going for the script, English. In case your resources, you have multilingual deployment, you can pick up and publish resources by different languages. Like if you have French UI, would have different translation of resources, for example, if your resource is language dependent. Now, I'm not going to upload file, and I'm just going to copy some script. Just let me find it. Presentation. I'll just go walk through, and it's a very simplistic way to do that script, but effectively what I'm going to do is squiggling. Knows how to switch squiggles off. It's a spelling, but anyway. So what we're doing here, we are trying to validate the context, and what we're saying, we get an attribute, which is, remember, prefix GDACN, and we get in value of this attribute. And then basically we're saying if ACN contains value, and here's we're cheating a bit. We're parsing it as an integer, and we're saying if it's a value, it needs to be between, well, it needs to have 9 digits, between effectively 1 million and 9 million, whatever. 999 million, sorry, between 100 million and 999 million. Okay, and then we pop up a message and we cancel. So it's got some bit of API. This is CRM specific API. It gets loaded for every form. So you've got object model like access to a page, controls, attributes, and so forth. Okay, so yep.
Is this the portable business logic?
No, not at all. I'll show you a bit of the portable business logic in a second.
What do you refer to this as?
This is just a form script.
Okay.
This is you might have
Choice whether you do it this way or the portable business logic?
you can't do stuff like what I just did in portable business logic. Typical implementation of scripts is not so much about field validation, though. Typical implementations involve scripts that fire up web services and talk to CRM and get some additional data and make a decision based on that. For example, it can fire up in background a call to CRM and say, what roles does this user have? And depending on user roles, it can modify your user interface, things like that. You know, the simplest incarnations here is hide, show, things like that. But and that's what PBAL covers well. But there are obviously more complex scenarios. Good example, like we have medical solution, right? They've got Medicare number, and they can push the button, and it fires up call to Eclipse Medicare online system and validates the Medicare number, and comes back and tells them if it's valid or what. The name it uses, first, last, and Medicare and birthday and expiration date, and it comes back and says whether it's valid or not. And if it's invalid, it comes back with the valid data. Like, for example, last digit change, it says, do you really mean that? Yeah, sure. Things like that. So it's not necessarily, usually could be quite involved what's happening on the...
So can I just check, validation can be done with either script or the portable business logic, either way? Validation?
You'll see. Portable business logic, no, not quite. Yeah, there are some limits to validation you can do with PBL. So I'll show you in a sec. Let me get through. I'll show you sample what you can do. You will see in the drop downs in PBL what's possible to do. So anyway, we just saved, and we'll publish in the my script. So it's suddenly this URL, this URL here, will become live. Like I can click and it will load the script, right?
Couldn't test it?
What do you mean test
So
it?
you can only test it in live system?
No. Live as in live on this organization. I can have multiple organizations on my system. I'll talk about it in a sec. Anyway, so this is my development organization. There is nothing to test yet. I'm developing, right? I'm just showing you what typical developer does throughout the day, so to speak, okay? So we save that, and what we now have, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Okay, we have this, and now on save, what I want to do is to add a function from that library, and I want to pass execution context. I'm passing execution context to be able to cancel the save event. Okay, it says really need to save before publishing. Fine. So let's publish that. Close. And F5. Let's see if it doesn't check obviously existing data. Let's see if, yep. Okay, so even if I top it up to a 9, It says nope. Let's see another case, empty. Happy. Okay. And this? Happy.
Excuse me, George.
Yes.
How would the autosave work in that situation? Like if they,
It will kick the on-save event.
so they could be.
Sam, you've got to use this.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, my question is with the autosave, if they type in a few numbers and let's say it's invalid, and then they tab down and they're starting to enter something else, and then suddenly the autosave kicks in, are they going to suddenly get the dialog box?
Yeah, that will.
Okay.
So you really, when you're developing, you need to be aware of autosave kicking on save event. So just be aware. There is another event called on change, so we can hook up, validate on change event. So when you tab off, it will pop up straight away. So it's probably, for these, would be a better option. When you, to validate individual field, the correct place is actually on change event rather than on save. But yeah.
Okay. It's quite a different paradigm for the saving events because you really got to be thinking what's going to happen.
Autosave is a bit game changing in this regards, and therefore, as I said, majority of organizations that are upgrading from 2011, they disable it for now, because that's guaranteed way to be backward compatible in this regards, because behavior changed. So you can tick the box and go back to the original behavior where user needs to press save button. Okay, but the new forms, the new organization, new forms, you can review how you do that, how you hook things up. You need to be aware it can kick in 30 seconds, but on the if I put the other hat on and say autosave is the greatest thing, keep in mind that it's no different from user pressing save button every 30 seconds. Right? It absolutely, or Control S. I press Control S. I taught users to press Control S. When they type in a lot, I said, look, save yourself trouble, press Control S every now and then. It saves it, okay? That's all it does. So it's going to be no different to the user pressing Control S every 30 seconds. Okay? So whatever you had before, if you didn't cater for the user pressing Control S, you probably didn't do a good job in the first place. So, yeah, the argument is, yeah, right. Look, you can disable it, but it's working. Anyway, let's, where's my solution? And let's say I want new rule. Super rule. Here's your conditions, right? So here's my field, and I'm saying if account number contains data, okay, then what I want to do is, here's what you can do right now. Adam, you paying attention? This is the actions you can do right now.
I'm sending an email right now to Microsoft to complain about this.
Yeah, like they didn't have enough emails about that. Anyway, so the action is, that's what you can, your current actions are. You can show error message, you can set another field, you can set business requirement for another field. That's what I'm going to do. You can set visibility, hide, unhide, and you can lock on unlock field. And that's actually, this 5 is probably covering like 70–80% of what typical business users want from the on-form behaviors. You making a photo? Do you want me to do a screen capture for you? Okay. Cool. Anyway, so I'm setting business requirement, and I'm putting ACN. I'm saying business required. Okay. There's a gotcha here. People said, oh, but then I removed value from account, and it didn't undo what I just did. Right? It's one-way traffic, but it's like programming. You did if, now you need else rule. So you have to program both branches. You can't assume that once you do that, the opposite is also true. It doesn't assume the opposite action. Does it make sense what I'm saying? It doesn't assume, it doesn't imply if account doesn't contain data, make it non-business required. It doesn't imply that. You may want to do something else.
Can you click the drop down again? I just want to take a screen capture.
This one?
Yeah.
So, this one? Are you taking screen capture? Done?
Yeah, fine.
Fine. Okay, cool. Anyway, so you would have to basically add another rule which deploys the opposite logic, so to speak. But let's see. So we've got save. Let's see, it says deactivated. Okay, I want to activate, and it's on all forms. Not gonna do a good. It's not a good idea to do it for all forms because ACN doesn't. I didn't put it on all forms, ACN field, so it's gonna kill over. But just do it anyway. I'm a lousy programmer, so. So now let's see how does that work. Pressing Control F5 to refresh. And what field did I put in? And I put in the field which is not on the form.
Account number.
Nice one, George. Let me quickly fix that. So, okay. Save, publish. No. Save, publish. That's better. So you see the ACN, it's, I can remove that. Sorry, remove that. Save, and it's fine. Now let's put account number. And you see this little red appearing. Now when I try to save it, and it tells me you must provide a value for ACN down at the bottom. Okay?
I want to ask a question. This behavior is very different than checking for the length of numbers. Because one of them is unobtrusive. It's just telling you at the bottom of your screen saying that, hey, you need to enter a value. Yeah. The other is actually obtrusive. It interjects a message box.
Look,
so is there a way you can control this or no?
Not that I know of, not right now, but it's been pointed out that it's inconsistent. Earlier in 2011, you do get a message popping up. Now it's very subtle. And your only way currently to get the user attention is pop up a message. So there is a discrepancy in UI, and it's been pointed out. I don't know what the plans are. Certainly there will be something done about it. But currently they put it next to the save button. But immediate reaction was, where's my message? Why it's like it put in focus? Oh, it's down the bottom. So it took, even me, when I first saw it, like it took me about 30 seconds to find this message. So there is a bit of training. You can definitely just train users to see if you're saving and it puts focus, you see this red asterisk and you see the message is going to be there. But by the same token, the mandatory fields, people found the feedback was from 2011 that it's a bit intrusive. The mandatory field, you must do that, and it's popping up, dismiss. Now, it puts it, you can start typing. So you kind of saved yourself either mouse click or keystroke, right, to dismiss the warning.
Another question is,
yep.
Can you play with the CSS? You know how it puts the...
not the form.
Make that box red, for example.
No, that wouldn't be supported. That wouldn't be supported. What you can do when you do need custom UI, there is a notion of the web resource HTML, and you can embed your custom HTML onto the form, and then whatever world is your oyster, whatever you do there, it's your concern only. So out of the box, like coloring, things like that, not supported for the form, but you can do your own embedded HTML. And that's understandable from support point of view. People do it anyway. So you get with, to the DOM model, and that's exactly what's going to break between, say, 2011 and 2013. If you did DOM model manipulations in 2011, which wasn't supported, you go to 2013 and it just goes boom, because the model changed, the form changed. It's DOM model did change, so here you go. Now, let's go back and see. Now, this is now, I have nice account, right? Let me top it up, and I might as well add a new entity. And I'm saying new. For each account, I might have projects. Let's say project, you know. So I have entity. I'm not going to enter anything. I'm just saying project, plural name projects, user team activity. I'll put it on sales. We're working on sales. Mail mesh notes, quick create, doesn't matter. Okay. I'm just quickly creating. What's important, I want to add a link. So I want to add enter one. So new enter one relationship, and I want to account project, and display name will be account plural name details. Relationship is done, and let's say just to complete, I'm creating a new field called start date. Okay, it's going to be date only. What I'm going to do, final step, is I go to the form, and let's say we put account here, and start date here. And say account, technically speaking, what I should have done is made it, sorry, business required. I don't want to have project without accounts. Okay. Now, so now I have a solution. I have a solution, okay, which contains two entities, accounts and projects. Let's see all the components of my solution. Two entities and a script. Right? I could, you see, project, it's an ugly icon. I could replace it, then I would put icon as a resource, as a web resource, right? And add it to the solution. So now I have multiple components. Now, what do? I can now take it out. I can take this solution out. And let's export it. It says publish all customization. Good idea. So we don't have any pending customizations. That's not going to pick up. We go next. Now, what it warns me about, it says, dude, remember those dependencies I warned you about, right? You still didn't put them in. So I'm just warning you, if any of these is not found on the target system where you're going to import your solution into, right? Obviously, we take solution out and we import it, right? It tells me if any of these missing on the target system, it's going to fail. Your importer is going to fail. It's like, fine. I know. Okay. This is probably most important screen when you export solution. Unmanaged and managed. The word, rule number one, managed has nothing to do with managed code. This is not about managed code. This is about managed solution. And we'll talk shortly when to use what. For now, I'll just export it as, did I click? I thought I did. Yeah. Okay. I'll do save the file. I'll put it on the dev. I put it on the source. Okay. And basically, just quickly, I'm going to show you what's inside. So it's got solution file which describes components of the solution. It's got customization like my form layout, things like that. It will be inside customization file. It's got workflows. That's my super rule in there. It's got web resources. That's my JavaScript in there, right? Inside, there will be JavaScript. It's all inside zip file, okay? Not particularly pleasant concept for people who used to the code. But it's packaged. It's a one thing. What I can do now is, let me demonstrate what I can do now. Let me switch. I'm switching to my server. And I want to provision a new organization. Now, here's the trick with provisioning. Well, first of all, I want to log off and log on back to get the screen. Okay? So now, what I'm going to do is go to Deployment Manager. I can provision new organization. It will take about 10 minutes. I don't want to do that. Here's my quick way. I already provisioned organization, deleted it, took the database back up. It's a SQL database, right? And now what I'm doing is a little trick which simplifies it. Here's my Acme organization, right? So what I'm doing, I'm just restoring database from the device. Okay, I want different file names. Let's say dev1, dev2. Oh, dev1, sorry, what I'm talking about. Okay.
Want the name to be different?
Sorry? Yeah. That's dev. Where's the buttons? Doesn't work that well on. Okay, I'll. Sorry. Scroll where? How? Yeah, that's. I've been asked to do this resolution. Ready. How about enter? Ta-da!
It's usually next to that.
Yeah, I know. Verify media, it's next there, but there's no way for me to scroll. Anyway, so it's restored database. Now what I do, I go to this deployment manager, right, and say import organization. And I picked it up and say, hey, look, I've got this database, which looks like a CRM database, but it's not in yet as organization. Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, that's my dev organization. Unsupported characters. Okay. Dev is reserved word, trust me. There are a few reserved words like CRM, dev, a couple others. Anyway. So map users, it's the way to move CRM organizations between the systems anyway. So like backup the database, restore, import. Import is very important stage because it remaps IDs, like users on one system could be different from the other systems. It does some mapping. So anyway, it's applying database updates, which it shouldn't be doing. It's already been raised as a bug for on-premises. There's nothing to apply updates to. There are no updates. It's 8 or 9. The build is 8 or 9. There are no updates. I just took it out, take it back in, and says, oh, I need to apply updates. I don't know what it's doing. But anyway, it's going to be done in a second. Come on. No, it's a local update. They are local updates. So no. So it's done now. So it's imported, fine. So now what I can do is I can go in, I can put a new tab and say, dev1. Brilliant. And now I have no data, nothing, right? So the first thing I would want to do, because it was blank database, but I want sample data, so I'll go to settings, I'll go to data management, sample data. It displays the dialog, install sample data. That's just for me to work. Okay, it's doing its thing, it's installing it in background. What I want to do is to go to solutions and say, I want to hold on, which button is import? This one. So now, what I'm gonna do was cdef source. This is important warning. I'm importing unmanaged solution. Unmanaged solution says whatever I'm importing, it would be the same as if you typed by hand. So to undo that, you will have to undo all your actions. Right? So this is unmanaged solution. So it goes in as is. I'm saying fine. It's importing, importing, importing. This process can be quite intense. So it said, yeah, fine, and it's a log what it imported, right? Publish all customizations. Now, it's important that the process can be lengthy. It's doing a lot of things. So you need to carefully select what goes into solution. So what we have now is when I go back to sales, and we have our beautiful sample data, and we go to accounts, and I go to the account, I've got my beloved ACN, and I've got my account number, and I've got my logic firing up, and I've got my rule saying that ACN must be 9 digits. So I just transported whatever I've done from one organization to another. That's in a nutshell development process, right? There's obviously more to it. And let me go back to presentation and start firing up there. So what we stop. Remember, there is unmanaged. When I exported, that's equivalent of a source code, as close as it gets. If you need equivalent, keep in your head, like if you're a developer coming from .NET background, this is as close as it gets to the source code. You export it, you put it on the target machine, and it's your source code, it goes in, it's part of your project. If you want to take it out, you just have physically to remove the files, undo the things, do your own thing, right? There is no reset button. Then, solution can be managed. What you're taking out is equivalent of assembly. You're taking it out, you're putting it in, and it's managed by CRM. You can't just go in and fiddle it. You can remove the solution, which will take everything out, but otherwise, it's just all the components that are there in managed solution, they go in as a single thing. And then there is a system. You've seen the default solution, right? That's out of the box. This is customer relationship management system out of the box. There are entities, accounts, contacts. You can rename them, but you can't delete them. You can't delete fields. They don't have prefixes, you can't delete. You have a look, field doesn't have prefix, you can't delete it. You can give it a different caption, but that's what it is, right? You can hide them by roles, by just modifying sitemap, but you can't remove it. So how different things interact with each other? So again, managed solution, not the same as managed code. So what happens is there is a system layer. Out of the box, you've seen it. Like out of the box, whatever you install, provision new organization, that's what it is. Then on top of that, there's managed layer. So whatever solutions from ISV, like we developed ISV solution, it sends, receives SMS messages as activity. Right? Could be, that's a very simple solution. It's got one extra entity, heaps of scripts, some interaction with the external world, but that's about it, right? There are some complex solutions involved with marketing, which covers like not only email marketing, but web promotions programs, so all this sort of stuff. So that could be as complicated as you want it to be. There could be legal solution. You just go in and you install solution, then you customize it, and it covers the legal aspects, and so forth. So it could be industry, could be technical solution. Anyway, the solutions go in, and the rule is the last one wins if they start conflicting. If they modify the same element, then the last one will win. So there's a managed layer, and then again, there's unmanaged layer. You imported all the solutions, then you go into the system and you modify things in that system. That goes into unmanaged layer. This is not managed, right? You have to undo physically. You can't just do it. And that's what defines application behavior, like all this stack. There are two kinds of changes. The ones that last one in wins, like for example here it's shown as a view. So when I define a specific view, accounts more than $1 million, right? As a firstly, there's a system view, if it exists. If it doesn't, then let's say this view was introduced by managed solution. It's modified the view, added a couple extra columns. Solution B added its own columns, right? Solution B wins. Whatever solution B defined will bubble up to the top. That's what the user will see. There are things like sitemap where changes are merged, and the forms. If solution A added a section on the form and solution B added another section, CRM will try to do its best to actually merge the two, display one section then another. It can get complicated, obviously. It doesn't always work as intended, but it tries to do best. Forms, sitemaps, so UI elements, it tries to merge them. Ribbons, also the commands, which are specific for part of the solution, tries to merge them. So, the things to remember, only one unmanaged layer. For managed solutions, last one in wins. There is a merge versus override, so you need to know which elements are merged, which are overwritten, and when merged, how they merged. It's for you as a solution developer to adapt your solution so it's merged nicely, so it doesn't cause any drama when merged. The one thing, again, important thing to remember, changes in CRM are additive. Whatever you do with the solutions, you cannot remove stuff by importing solution. Does it make sense? If you take solution, if you added some element, let's say I added ACN, and I produce a different solution, which same publisher, that is me, same solution name, different version, doesn't have ACN number. Neither on form nor in the entity. I delete it completely. I import this solution, ACN number stays. It's not going to be on the form, but it's going to be on the entity, right? So you cannot delete stuff. There are some techniques around it, but out of the box, it's not easy. You do it by hand. It's kind of not a big drama because deletion is very kind of crude operation, and people usually complain when you delete some business data. So it's anyway. Well, actually, yeah, we already been through that. The only one thing I didn't show to you, what difference managed solution. When I export as managed and I import as managed, what difference does it make? Now, careful with rolling back. You can remove solution. It's not quite a rollback. You can remove the solution.
And they need to work on
No, your system will roll back. You import solution, right, and you remove. So effectively, managed solution incorporates the functionality that it's in. You can bring it back. You can take it out. Unmanaged solution, in fact, it doesn't hold those components. It sort of brings it in, drops it in, right, and steps away. In fact, I'll just show you one thing that usually makes it quite clear. So we in dev organization, right? So if I go into settings, yeah, I know. If I go into, you gotta be kidding me, right? Oh, remember I said it doesn't undo the logic. I didn't implement the other branch of the logic. When account number is blank, it didn't undo that this one. It's no longer mandatory. So you would have to add it. Anyway, so what I want to do is to go to the, not the sales, but the settings. You see my super duper solution. Confirm the deletion. Kill it. Okay. What happens now to my account? Guess what happened? Nothing. It was unmanaged solution. What I brought in unmanaged solution, nothing but a pointer to things. It's like when you build a project in Visual Studio, you can have files or you can have links to the files. You can destroy links to the files still there. So that's pretty much it, right? Anyway, let's move on. and talk about solution layering. Okay. So there are two principles way to put multiple solutions in, and it's important to understand how to put solutions in, because that's how you add functionality to your CRM or to someone else's CRM. Let's say, and in this example, we use web portals that run off CRM. There is actually a product, and you can download this. This is free solution downloadable from the marketplace. It's called Dynamic Marketplace. You can go in, you can search for these, for portals. You find it, download, install, right? And it's got 3 different portals. There is a base one. It's got concepts like website, web page, and things like that. So that's at the bottom of the solution here. No, sorry, wrong key. Let's try that again. I lost my, okay, good. Tried to zoom in and didn't work. Okay, so you've got this base layer, which modifies like website, web page, and all the related things, like pieces of HTML and things like that. Then on top of that, you put a customer portal, which got specific stuff to deal with customers. It's got concept of the case, where customers can log in into your website, create a case. Your CRM will recognize them, authenticate them. They can create case. They will show up as cases in CRM. You can also have like KBA articles and things like that. So it's additional functionality on top of the base functionality of the customer portal. And then you have an extra functionality on top of that dealing with partners like channels, sales channels, opportunities brought to you by your partners. So your partners will have special logins into your website and so forth, right? So each functionality is kind of incremental and it depends on the previous one. So that's the way you do it in your development is you develop unmanaged functionality. You have 3 instances. Like I have 2, Acme and Dev1, you would have 3 instances. On one instance, you develop unmanaged. You develop functionality related to the base portals. Like you modify, you add website, you add web page, and so forth, right? Now what you do, you export it, but you export it as a managed solution. Then you take this managed solution and import into the next one. So now you have the base platform, right? And you develop extra functionality related to your customers. You export all these as managed solution and into the next one. Now, the next one will require base plus customers. And then you develop your partner portal solution. Does it make sense? So now you have 3 solutions. Now, what's the disadvantage of that? You have dependencies. You cannot install customer without installing base. You're dependent. So when you come to install it, you have to install this, base, then customer, then partner. The advantage is, if, say, you want to modify a web page entity and add an extra attribute, say title, or Google Analytics ID, or something like that, you go in and you add it in one place only. You don't need to do anything. You just recompile the solution, done, you know. And people can go in and add this, slide it in, and it's done. Now, the different approach is when you take all the functionality and you develop as unmanaged solutions, right? And then basically you only take the functionality that you want. You say, oh, you want customer portal, here's your customer portal. You want partner, here's your partner solution. So the way to develop is basically whenever you move solutions in your dev environment, they're always unmanaged from one organization to another. So your final one has all the modifications in simplest unmanaged form. The advantage is that in the end of the day, you have one solution to import for the customer, right, or internally, whatever. You have portal. these portals, customer portals or partner portals, but it's one solution. You don't need to layer it up. The disadvantage is whenever you need to modify something like add title or Google Analytics ID to your web page, you have to do it in multiple places. It's kind of, each of these approaches has its merits. Depends on complexity of the deployment that you have in the final environment. Well, and people ask, well, is it managed or unmanaged? Should I use managed or unmanaged solution? Well, it depends. The correct answer is depends. Initial thoughts were, when 2011 just started to bubble up, the ideas around 2011 was you use managed. That's how you transfer things around. Then people played with managed, got themselves into sticky situations, let's put it, more than once. And then some different approaches were developed how to carefully select managed to unmanaged. When to go managed? The rule of thumb is when you want to be able to uninstall the solution. When do you do that? You ship in software, you ISV, right? You want people to be able to, you want to know what's installed on people's machines, right? And you want to repeat this process over and over. You want to give them new version. You don't want them to think, you want them to be able to take it out. Repeatable solutions, that could be twofold. The one is repeatable solution is, say, you develop, again, ISV model, where people take your solution, import, try it out. They like it, they buy it. They don't like it, they take it out, nothing happened. The other one is repeatable solutions. Say you're a large company and you produce some infrastructure components, like, for example, address validation for the customer through the Australian Post service, right? So you purchase the license, you develop that, and your infrastructure team would develop the web service and interaction and JavaScript and all sort of stuff. And in the end of the day, they deliver it as a managed solution. And because of the size of your organization and there's very little interaction, it's kind of ISV-like environment. So you want to keep it managed as well. And the last one is a tricky one when you're doing integration with external systems, particularly with other dynamics like nav or AX. People say, I personally haven't done it, but the word is that it's much easier to maintain integrations when they are managed solutions. So when you modify the systems, I personally haven't done it, but again, it's a repetitive process. You want to remove your customer from decisions of deleting, removing, undoing things. So when to go unmanaged? Well, everywhere else, right? So that's basically, if you don't fall into any of these categories, do not go managed. And there are reasons for that. Primary reason is that when you can get yourself into dependency situation, and then it will be very difficult to remove your managed solution. If you layer something on top, for example, I export my solution with ACN number as managed, and I import it as managed. Right? Then I go in and modify the form, and I change the ACN number, if allowed, change the length of it, increase. I say, I'm going ABN, baby. It's 2 digits more, right? And then, guess what? I won't be able to remove this solution. It says, hey, dude, I've got dependencies. I don't know how to unwind. End of story. Bye-bye. So it will be extremely difficult to undo things. One word of warning. People think managed provides some IP protection. It's still a zip file. It's still XML. There's nothing there that cannot be seen, right? People provide protection via code, so licensing code. There's no IP in solutions. Managed challenges. There is no rollback. You can undo things, but let's say version 1, version 2 goes on top. You think removing 2 restores 1? No, it removes. Okay, so there is no rollback in solution installation. That's something that I believe is being considered, but currently there is no rollback. You can't overwrite unmanaged changes. So managed solution going in can't stuff up whatever's on top. Remember this layering? So you can't jump on top just because you managed. End results, yeah, less predictability because of all the different merging going on and multiple layers in managed. Remember, multiple managed solutions. There are dependencies. Those dependencies are not a joke, right? So if your solution depends on something that is not on target system, it won't install. And what's worse, if you put dependencies on top, it won't uninstall. So the last bit is very important to you as developers. You can't go from managed to unmanaged. That's why rule number 1 on development machine, do not ever, ever, ever turn your solution into managed. You can have third-party components. Like we develop, we use, one of our customers use third-party solutions. And we do have some dependencies there, right? So we had to install this solution. We didn't activate license or whatever, right? But we had to install the ISV solution on dev machine to get those dependencies in. Then we were able to put our stuff into production. But when you're developing on your machine, do not turn your solution, whatever you do, into managed. Because once you go managed, you will not be able to undo it. Okay? Once you compile into, effectively, it's a one-way compilation. Once you compile into assembly, right, consider your source code gone. Imagine that. Your compilation, your turn managed, and your source code gone. That's pretty much it. Oh, turns read-only. So you can see what's in there, but you can't do anything about it. So that's the closest equivalent. So basically, on your dev machine, stay away from managed. Small fixes. Effectively, in production, you can't just go in and fix things. You have to go through the process. It may be seen as a positive thing in rigid environments where there is a process to deploy it, and sure. Challenges for deleting. I'm not going to stop right now. Remember about the deletion of the column? There is a way around it. There are some trickery involved, but we're not going to stop now. Now, teams. Remember I said solutions is size. The one thing you can do is you have people who specialize in code writing, people who specialize in UI, people who know everything about the workflow, people who can do reports, people who know a thing or two about security, so forth. What is this? It's a natural way to partition your solution into smaller solutions. You can have one solution which includes only entity, schema, UI relationships. Second solution, workflow processes. You know, business process flows, the new thing, right? Dialogues, things like that, interaction with the user. Plugins, that's pure code. That's on the server side. It's the code that can kick in on the server side. That's your coding guys, do that. So you can split it, right? And partition and have multiple solutions. There are limitations. On premises, solution size is 5 meg. Can be increased, but out of the box 5 meg. 29 meg for the online. That's a huge solution. That's a zipped file. It would be a huge solution. But then again, if you have code, you have multiple assemblies there, can easily go to the large size. But what's important is the size is one thing. SQL timeouts is another thing. Solution goes in as transaction, and if it takes too long, it's going to be killed. So effectively, people very soon find not so much solution size as SQL timeouts. To deal with that, just partition it into logical bits and use your team skills to partition it. Right? So that's one way to deal with it. Now, quickly, any questions about solutions? I want to make sure that understand at least some understanding what the concepts are. There's more to it, but just the basics: managed, unmanaged, and a system. So there are 3 types of solution. Think of its system as operating system. You can't remove it even if you wanted to. Unmanaged is your source code, and managed solutions, they compile source code assemblies. They come in from the outside, come in from another department. You can do your own, but do not compile your code because there's no easy way to go back. Current pain. It's difficult to isolate. What I was doing in the environment, corruption, not the right word. I didn't find the word, Adam. I didn't find the word. Corruption is take it to the stage where the behavior is not quite what you need. And the only way back is to actually restore from the backup. Going managed would be one of the ways to actually turn it into a situation where you can't just step back and undo things. Restore from the backup. Testing, always a challenge. How do you test it? Visibility, you do things here, things there, multiplied by developers, and suddenly there's poor visibility of what's been done where. Easy to add things that CRM does. Yep.
For visibility, can you use tools like the Redgate's database compare and all that? Have you ever tried it? No. Do they work?
Well, online they wouldn't because you don't have access to the database. But yeah, they would. It's a database. But yeah, I suppose you could.
At least for schemas.
No, but there are better ways. We're coming to that. There are no ALM traits. It's basically, there is no source control from what you've seen. It's a zip file, the solution, components, get knows. There could be a code component, like plugins or workflow extensions would have code, C# or VB, whatever, VB.NET or C#, right? But there's no build system, there's no automation, so it's hard out of the box. Yep?
So how do people collaborate to work on it?
That's exactly what we're coming to. Okay? So what we have is like people, developers pulling in different directions. What we want is basically organized movement towards the goal. As a sidetrack, you know that ants, they're not actually that smart. When they pull in, they actually pull in like that, right? It's a miracle that they get their target into where they want to, because they pull in random directions. And it's pretty much very funny that sometimes they do manage to get it there. So
How do you know this fact?
I read about it. Internets. Have you heard of this? From an ant expert. Believe it or not, there are experts. Yeah. I'll talk about 3 dev environments, right? I'll just skim quickly about it. So one way to develop, how you organize. You've got multiple developers, how you organize development, right? So you've got CRM, you've got multiple organizations. What do you do? So you have one shared VM or server, and you put a CRM on it. It's got SQL, it's got CRM, you've got Active Directory somewhere humming along, that's it. And then you provision orgs, and you give organizations to your developers. Right? So effectively, Dev 1, Dev 2, Dev 1 goes to John, Dev 2 goes to Mitch, and so forth. Right? What it's good for? It doesn't require massive resources. It's probably cheapest out of all the ways to provision, to have it up and running. It's good for point and click. If all your customizations are, moving things around, portable business logic, processes, things like that, you give your super duper powered users access to their orgs, and they start humming away, modifying forms. It's actually quite good for that. Right? They don't step on each other's toes because they've got separate orgs. When they're done, they export it, then you can merge and things like that. Right? So bring the changes. The only thing you have to watch out that John doesn't work on the same stuff as Mitch. Right? John can modify say context, Mitch can modify accounts, and so forth. Right? But what you do need, you need to loosen up security because they might want to provision an extra organizations and things like that. So it's shared server. So suddenly reports are on the same reporting server and things like that. So what do you do? The next step up is basically have VMs. Each VM has its own CRM deployment. They can hang off the same Active Directory if you want to, so you can share users and things like that. But it would have, they can't share SQL, so it would have to have SQL or SQL instances either elsewhere or on that machine. But it would have like endpoint. It's like a website, separate websites. Each VM has its own. The good thing about it, they can go in, they can provision orgs, they can take it out, take it down. Reporting server is their own. They can apply different rollups. CRM, as you've seen, 2011 is up to rollup 15. So they can test movement between rollups. Because in a single environment, you only have one rollup. Right? which is shared. So here you've got different rollups. You need a bit more grunt. Now the third one is most preferred, most expensive, but it's not as expensive. If you're serious about CRM development, buy one of these babies, get post-market components on it, and you just flying. Say this is Lenovo W530, quad-core, 32 gig of RAM, 2x500 SSD drives. Right now I'm running CRM 2011, CRM 2013, all my dev environment, Office stuff like that. I'm not eating even half of RAM. Yep.
Third option, how do you get around the requirement to install AD? You basically need a domain control, right?
No, look, remember this VM that I showed you, this one?
Awesome.
Yeah. Mehmet. So the question is, how do you get around requirement have ID? This is my VM, right? It's got ID installed.
Okay.
Technically speaking, this is unsupported. You can't install CRM on AD controller. But for development, it works. It's fine. You can do groups of the machines. There's nothing stopping you. If your VM can talk to the network, right, there's nothing stopping you from talking to AD elsewhere. The only downside is it suddenly becomes non-portable. Or you can have dev domain and you can have controller here. Look, you just run AD on in your environment. It's completely isolated. So if you're looking for sharing, this is completely isolated case. The upside is you can do whatever you want. You can test all the different scenarios. You can test SharePoint integration. You can test this. Price-wise, just give you an idea, this laptop was bought half a year ago, before aftermarket modifications, 2,800. So the cheapest disk, things like that. Smallest RAM you could buy. And then you buy aftermarket disks and RAM, about $4,400, $4,500. And I know it's going to last. My previous laptop lasted almost 3 years before I upgraded to this one. So it does last in terms of investment. So it's a good investment. Sure.
So what's the largest development environment that you've seen in your career? I mean, for me, I've only really seen kind of small environments, maybe 3 developers most.
You mean in terms of number of developers?
Yeah, number of developers.
They're probably interesting that the tool we're going to talk about is done by a company called ADX Studio, which do the portal development on top of the Microsoft portals to simplify, and they do produce some tools for CRM. Their environment is a nightmare, right? They've got 7 or 8 different variations of the portal. They've got multiple versions, customers to support. So their dev environment for each developer is something like 30 plus organizations, CRM organizations, right? That's a standard setup of the developer. They've got 30 different orgs to maintain, right? So, and they've got, Shannon's got about 30 devs, I think 20 or 30 devs. So, but their complexity is not so much number of devs as a complexity of the environments and permutations of different dependencies. He's the one who's basically was a pioneer of all these investigations into dependencies and dependency trackings because of complexity of the environment. That's probably one of the most complex environments I've seen and how people work. And that's where you do need to automate and put the processes in place. So let's skip that. Source control. Okay, you do need, the first thing first, you do need source control. Source control in zip files doesn't do anything for you, right? It's no good. What you do need is you do need to check everything you do in CRM into source control. Plugins, workflow extensions, easy. That's a source code, right? What do you do with customizations? It's been recognized. It's basically unmanaged solution files. It's like your source files. So what do you do? What do you do is very, very simple. Let me bring up. What? Sorry, keep bringing the wrong environment. Okay. I have command line. And what you have here is super duper my solution 111, right? There's a tool. Solution packager. So what I want to do is see what the syntax is. Action, extract pack, zip file, and folder. Okay. So action will be extract. Zip file will be super duper. Right, and folder will be cdev source super. Okay. What it just did, it took the zip file, pulled it apart onto different components, right? And when you go in, so web resources, remember the script? Here's your script, right? As a nice JS file, not some mumbo jumbo inside the zip. Nice JS file. It's got some metadata on it, so XML file containing some metadata. But you got your entities. Remember, account entity, what we modified, ribbon diff, that's for ribbon, entity definition, the forms definition. So it's split it into different things. What you can do with it? Well, what I can do with it is basically say, I can go to, I'm not going to show TFS, Adam. I'm sorry. Just too much to switching to go on. So, but you can do TFS. What I did show, like I created a repository. So that's it. What I go now is I'll go. That's Mercurial. So I'll go. Where's my repository? Ah, here we go. So I'll just go all of them, add, right? And commit, done. I'm in. That's my source control. Okay, I'm go in and modify. I can do diffs. I can check in. I can check out, right? And obviously what I do, I can get this out of the source control. I use the same tool to package it back into zip file, make the solution, and put it into CRM. Okay, so that's what it does. Okay, source control. How many of you use Visual Source Safe? I'm glad to hear that. How many of you use TFS? Okay, TFS using Git, just native TFS. Git or Mercurial? Anyone? Like Bitbucket or GitHub? No? Okay. The good thing is we stayed away. We went to, for about 2 years ago, for distributed version control systems like GitHub or Mercurial or Git. There's basically two primary systems. Never looked back. I have distributed team. I have people overseas who work, so it's important for us to be able to work independently and then bring the changes together, right? So we never looked back. So when Adam said, hey, dude, you're really a Microsoft developer, you should be using TFS. So that's fine, okay. So what we did is I did provision TFS. I use TFS online. I said no desire to install anything locally. So I use, it may or may not work because I'm on wired. Yeah, okay, it will work on wireless. Regardless, so my projects are inside TFS, but using, yeah. My projects are, so if I go visualstudio.com, that's better. Now, I presume the one thing is, once I log on into CRM with Azure Active Directory, right? Once I log on into CRM, it's not going to prompt me. So it goes in like that. So, for example, this is my ALM for CRM from Monday. Okay, so I've got code. Did I check in? Yes, I did. I did different solution, but it's TFS for you. The tool that I used, Adam, did you see this tool? I downloaded Atlassian's tool called SourceTree.
If you're using TFS, you can then get all this from Visual
Ah,
Studio too.
Yeah, but
From
what if
source code
I'm on the server, I don't have Visual Studio right now. What do I do?
That's a rich client too.
It is rich client. Look, this is just for demo. I mean, on the server, you would install, look, if you're running scripts on a build server, right, you would install, say, Git. Or TFS, does it have PowerShell? Probably does, right? So you would install PowerShell extensions to operate your version control system, whatever. Would it be Git or TFS or Mercurial or whatever else, right? But get decent source control system and use it.
But why do you need it on the server?
Sorry, imagine this is built. I don't have, yeah, I see your point. Why do I need server?
Why do you need the source control client on the server?
No. On the build server.
Ah.
If you build in, you can extract it. Look, you can extract it from your, what I did here, this is my dev machine. The server is underneath, right? This is my dev machine that doesn't have CRM, doesn't have server. It's got Visual Studios, 2 versions of Visual Studios. It's got all the tools I want. It's got all the tools I need, right? I can run build from here because I've got everything, right? Extract from CRM. To CRM, I can talk remotely. So I extracting things from CRM. That's fine. But let's imagine the build server. When I say build server, it doesn't necessarily a CRM server. It's a build server. This machine would need to have. It just happened, I was playing around on the server. I didn't want to install Visual Studio, TFS extensions. I said, I don't want a Git command line, just to climb. And I found this tool, and it's brilliant. If you're using Git, it just works. And it's really good Git UI. So just, yes, it is client, fully fledged client, but it's a nice Git client. So which is outside of Visual Studio, let's say. What do you do if, Adam, what do you do if, say, you need access to source code, but you don't have Visual Studio? So do you have an equivalent of Explorer?
Yeah, you have in the browser. So you can go in the browser, there's a few tabs. There's
Oh, yeah, that's what you mean, like what I showed, like I'm browsing now my...
Yeah, so that's it.
Is that what you meant? No, but if I want on my machine, can I do that? No?
You would need Team Explorer.
But there is a software, Team Explorer. Is it part of Visual Studio? Can I do it without Visual Studio?
You can.
Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, okay. So, as I said, it's a bit new to me because
People
I'm
never do.
Yeah. I understand that. People who use TFS, they would typically have Visual Studio.
Yeah,
that's
for
understandable.
us, it's like, why wouldn't you have Visual?
Good point. I have the guy.
No, for us.
No. I have the guy who does HTML, for example, right? Design. He doesn't have Visual Studio.
You have Explorer integration as well, so you can just use the shell extension.
Oh, okay. So there is shell extension. Okay.
To turn it into Tortoise.
Very similar to
Tortoise.
Tortoise.
For
Oh, okay.
SVN.
Sweet. Yep. Okay. Just didn't know. Just checking. Okay. That's cool. Let's move on. So this solution packager tool is very essential, right? It allows you to move your changes into a textual form, and you can actually then run compare. It's quite predictable in terms of how to unpackage and package back. So, and it's supported. So whenever you unpackage something, compare. What you shouldn't be doing, do not mess around with those unpacked files by hands. Okay? They're there as a source control, but don't mess, unless you know what you're doing, don't try to modify components by hand by modifying those XML files. Yep.
So George, can I just confirm the steps for source control is you need to extract the zip file from CRM.
You extract solution.
Yes, solution, which is a zip file.
Yep.
Extract the zip file, put that into source code control. Then if you want to go back the other way, you have to then recreate the zip file, import it into CRM,
Yep.
and then work from there.
Yep.
That seems extremely tedious.
You can extract zip file, put the zip file into source control, extract zip file from the source control, and put it into CRM.
Yeah.
You can do it this way. Look, in fact, the recommended way is do both. You know, put in zip file as well as unpacked one. Unpacked one gives you the power to compare.
Sure. And do diffs, fine.
Do diffs, right? Zip file, yeah, it's like a library. Just go in and out. Yeah. It's, look, we're not going to talk about this. Different branching strategies you can use depending if you're ISV or not. So solution packager, to sum it up, it's part of SDK. It's command tool that works with solution files. Oh, the other thing, it works with managed solutions as well. So that's very important. So it can extract managed solution into components as well. So that's important. When you extract, it says manage and manage. So you can take one source and build back two versions of your unmanaged and managed for, say, dev and for test. Say for UAT, you prefer managed. If your production is managed, your UAT should be managed as well. So it's basically to see changes, and when you see different changes to the same component, you can merge. You have to be very careful merging by hand, but you can do it. Considerations, yeah, what just he said. You have to make changes to CRM, then export. Do not do changes by hand. Do not, adding attribute by hand is not going to happen. You know, it's too much going behind the scene. There is no merging, automatic merging. It does depend on solution system. Hand editing, a big no-no. But let's see. Yep, we just did that. Challenges of development in general. Just go through, and then, guys, I'll show you the last bit, which is a component, a PowerShell library that enables you to work with CRM and automate the entire process. So the challenges, non-upgradable schema changes. If you have naming convention, then you change it, like whatever you create, the attribute names, you can't just undo your changes. You can't change the name of the attribute. You can change the caption, the label, but you can't change name of the attribute. And what people say, oh, big deal. Well, it is big deal, because when you script it, like JavaScript or OData, you're suddenly working with the schema names, not the labels. And JavaScript, as we all know, is case sensitive. I nearly shot myself about 3 months ago when we were upgrading project that because of the casing on the attributes. Every single attribute changed the case, and it was like, oh, it was a nightmare, right? So just careful. Deleting entities and attributes, it's tricky. It's doable, but very hard. The third one is ownership of workflows and dialogues. It's getting better, but basically, if you have solution with the workflow which says email customer, new customers, welcome email to the customer, and someone goes in, assigns it to themselves, take the ownership of the workflow, administrator, local admin, right? They go in, they take it, they modify something, they push it, they publish it. It's activated. You deliver a next version of your solution, you go in, guess what happened? You cannot install this workflow in because you don't own it. And that's a big limitation of the workflows. They can be only published people who own them. So if ownership changed, you're stuffed, right? So there are some steps you can do. You can script the change of ownership if you want to, if you need to. But this is basically a challenge of the changes. When you put solutions in, that's a challenge. Dependencies creeping in between your solutions, different solutions, between solution and stuff on top. Remember, unmanaged stuff goes on top and can introduce dependencies. Let's say you created a new form in your solution, a beautiful form to quickly edit customers, specific type of customers, let's say to enter insurance companies because it's got specific fields and so forth. And then people loved it so much, they went in and you allowed, in your managed solution, you allowed modifications to that form. You say, yeah, okay, go for it, extend it, right? So they went in and they added a couple of fields, and guess what happens? You can no longer uninstall your solution because you just acquired dependency on their modifications. They would have to undo those changes for you to uninstall. And it can become very, very tedious, right? So beware of that. Going back to unmanaged, the only way to go back to unmanaged is restore from the backup and replay your customizations. So don't do that on your dev machine. Or always have unmanaged version of your customizations. Always. And the easiest way to achieve that, have it repeatable. Be able, create an environment where you can take the blank organization, run the scripts, and get it to the latest point in your development, right? And all through the scripts. That way you can, it's your sandpit, you can do whatever you like because it's a repeatable process. So get blank, get changes from the source control system, replay the scripts, get it into the well-known state. That's the beauty. And that should include reference data and things like that. So, recommendations, just going through. Be careful with the naming. Never go to manage on your workstation. Keep your dev environment naked. Keep it very tidy and naked, as little as possible in your dev environment when you're developing features. Keep your features tidy, neat. Don't go for huge solutions. It's harder to manage dependencies. Better partition it like small number of solutions. That's my personal preference. Each solution, they can have dependencies, but be careful in managing those. And do give due consideration to putting managed solution into production as well. It's a no-no in dev environment, but think about putting it into production. If it's internal production, SSW, Adam, do you think you should be using managed in your environment?
Probably not.
I would say so. It's just not worth it to risk dependencies. Just not worth it for the, let's say, small environment like yours, right? In terms of CRM, let's be honest, it's a small deployment, right? You've got a small number of modifications. Functionality is 80% is what you see out of the box. So it's much easier to keep it unmanaged. Plus, you've got skills. You go onto production machine and you fix things, right? So,
my feeling is a lot of people will go with managed purely because of the name, and then find out, the war stories later.
it happened. It happened to us. Because the word was, with 2011, the word was go manage, dude. That's like the way to go. And some people went. They quickly realized that it's over the cliff in some instances.
Maybe just renaming controlled and uncontrolled or something like that. Because, yeah, but managed and unmanaged relates too much to our world. In our world, it means something else.
No, look, I'm sure,
Yeah, go on.
I wish I had influence on that, but it's the name, it's what it is. Okay, I'm not gonna teach you guys how to suck eggs about ALM. So just reiterate the points. Source control, must be authoritative source, right? So you should be able to recreate your environment from the source control. Most people I've seen, they use unmanaged solution in ALM environment. So when you do have your cycle, you do have unmanaged solutions. You can bring in managed solutions, particularly if they're third parties, and you do consciously acquire dependencies on those solutions. But yeah, just basically data. Have test data for all the scenarios. I just imported through UI, but you should be able to do that through the script, right? Look up data. You have list of countries. Typically it's an entity, but you have list of countries. For Australia, you would have postcode information, things like that. They're reference data, just bring them in. They should be part of your install. And those data, you should check them into source control as well. You should be able to replay them, right? An automated script, that's the ultimate target. How do you do different types of data, application data, test data, dev data, all the permutation of the above, production data, typically not in source control, right? Okay, let's go for automated scripts. How you script CRM. Out of the box, CRM comes with the PowerShell library. This PowerShell library deals with deployment. There's different CRM services. One of the services, they even servers, right? CRM inside, when you install it, it's, let me show it to you so you understand. I had audacity to call it a web application, and people correctly pointed out that it's a bit too complex for the web application, which is true. So when I go into my environment and I go in, sorry, that's usage. Servers, that's the one. That's my server. So I go properties, right? It used to list all the different servers. So now it says it's a SQL server. It's SRS data connector, so it connects to the reporting server. And it's also a full server. Well, very nice of them. What I wanted to say that full server includes application server, which is your front end, platform server, which is all the API that you can talk to and the web talks to, backend asynchronous server that executes asynchronous workflows, sandbox execution environment. Remember the differences between online and I said I'm going to point out, you cannot put non-sandboxed code into CRM Online. Okay, so when you write an extension, and there are some limitations, what you can do. Say you can't do, there are certain like disk I/O, file I/O. You can't use file I/O in sandboxed code. End of story. It just fails, right? So sandbox server. What else? Help would be a separate one, not a very important one. And deployment is another one. So there's deployment service. You can talk to your deployment and say, I want new organization provisioned with this currency, with these languages, and yada, yada, right? So there is a CRM add-in, Snap-in, sorry. But it deals only with deployment services. I can't show it to you for one reason. Current release of SDK doesn't have it in. And that's why the on-prem release is not released yet in full. It doesn't have it in because they add in a new very important feature, remote execution. Before it used to be only on the server. Now you can execute remotely. So you can remotely, as developer, say, I want new organization in my deployment, yada, 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 all through the script, right? But it only deals with the deployment service. So it can only provision, remove organization, things like that. It doesn't actually do the full job that we wanted to do. So what do we do is I went through the links, but what I wanted to show you, the last thing I wanted to show you is ADX Studio. It's a commercial product, okay? Let's get this right. It's a commercial product, and I'll talk to you about pricing and things like that. But let me show you what you can do with this product. I'll do it on the server. It doesn't particularly matter where you do it, but just happened I've got it all prepped on the server. And no. So when you install it, hold on, that's here. Okay, that's what I want to do. Scripts, and I'll go sample getting started. I'll just go to this one. Yep. Okay. What I want to show you is, for example, what it does effectively, it creates the connection to the CRM, and it executes a simple service. In CRM, there is a message called Who Am I? Who develops CRM knows this message. It's basically, you execute this message, it returns you your user ID and business unit ID and organization ID. So having those three gives you enough information to pull out whatever you want, your roles, your security, whatever, right? So that's what we do. We want to connect, and so I'm just saying sample deployment service, no, sorry. Sample getting started. Let me remove that. So what it does, it prompts me for password. And you see what it does. This library is very respectable in terms of, if it's not licensed, you can still develop. What it's going to do, it's going to prompt you every now and then saying that I can't find license key, right? So it gives you the ability to interactively develop, check syntax, whatever. What you can't do with that, you can't automate a thing because it will continue to prompt you, right? So you need to buy a license, shut it off, the message. So then you can automate, which is kind of fair enough. It's very extensive library. So what it does is, I'll just show you what functions it's got. You see, it has some SQL support. Remember I told you it's much faster to restore database from backup and import it as org rather than provision new organization. That's exactly the way to do it. You run SQL query. And the other thing is, you can do the easy thing, like you can create a baseline for your solution. So you created an organization which has all the bits and bobs you want, right? And you want to use it as a baseline. Back it up. All you need to do is to restore and import, and you're back where you started, because it's self-contained. In CRM, SQL database is self-contained. So you can move it around, you can import it, and it will contain all the features. There's nothing outside. Okay, so it's got like CRM content deployment, SQL database, TFS. Oh, they even added TFS support. Here you go. You know, that's very interesting here. JSON. So basically, we're talking about data being exported, imported, right? So the license, get connection, import organization, that's the operation I was talking about. You restore SQL database and you import it as organization. And that's the key. Invoke CRM organization server. That's your entrance into CRM. Complete. Because there is nothing in CRM, there is no functionality in CRM that is not exposed through organization or deployment service. So let me repeat that again. There is no functionality in CRM, in UI or at the back end, that is not exposed as a message inside one of these services. It's very important. It's very extremely well designed in this regard. So what it gives you ability, for example, throw out UI completely, this web UI, and write your own. I've seen those implementations because there's nothing hidden. There's 200 odd messages in this service, right? Every bit of CRM is covered. And you cannot, now you can add your own. Remember those actions, synchronous workflows? You declare those as a message, it will be 201 when you add it through this service, right? So you declare it at the back end, it will be available through this service. So that's actually quite cool. And you can add entities, remove entities, all this sort of stuff, right? So there's lots and lots and lots of stuff. So let's see what it does. Get who am I? Remember what I did? Get who am I. So what it did, it returned me, what user am I? Let me rephrase it. Oh, now it's what it's doing. I think I'll show you. I forgot to comment it out, but effectively, let it run. What it's done is I executed this command, export CRM content for this organization and put it into my data folder. That's all I did, right? One liner. Remember? What it did is it put it here, and let's have a look at the content. It's all JSON, right? In CRM, Sam, help me out here. How many entities in CRM out of the box? About 90 something? No, 180? No, I don't. We can take a look. That's embarrassing. I don't even know how many entities. So the way to check it is you go to the customizations. You go customize the system. Customize the system, you're working with default system solution, right? Unmanaged customizations on very top. And entities, 96. So I was right, yep. So about, customizable, all 103. So about 100 entities, right, out of the box. So let's go back and say, hold on, dude, there's not 103 entries here, right? It only exports what it needs to. It's only entities with the data. That's sample data in this system. So when you go in and you say, hey, show me what's inside. Hey, that's your JSON. Account, address, composite address. That's a new field, mind you. Composite address, finally. Adam would love that, but he left. So it's composite address Outlook style, you know, with the lines, and so this is cool stuff coming in. So all your data and in lovely JSON format. Now you can compare, you can import, you can edit, you can check it in, you do whatever you like. Isn't that cool? That's now you can import schema through this solution. Through the solution, you import the schema. Solution can't transfer data. Remember that solution doesn't contain data, right? It can contain roles, but not the data, not the lookup data, not the, not like, for example, country or whatever, right? With this, you can do move data around, and that's the final bit, right? The other thing, as I said, this script can do, for example, change the ownership of the workflow through the messages. Publishing workflow is a message inside CRM, and you have access to it. So what's saying that this tool gives you full access to all the functionality of CRM, and it gives you full functionality to be able to recreate your environment using nothing but script. And effectively, forget about database restore, right? Effectively, from your source control, you have text. There will be pure text. It will be source or XML configuration or data. From this pure text, you will be able to package your solution, provision CRM on the server, package your solution, put it in, move your data in, compile your code, compile your code, then build your solution, because solution can contain binaries. Compile your code, build your solution, move it in, deploy, move your data, get your environment. That's pretty much it, right? So, to close is, we talked about CRM. We talked about development process. Hopefully those of you who do know development process learned something new today. Those of you who didn't at least got some understanding what it entails and how CRM and ALM work together, so the whole process. It is possible to build CRM solutions in repetitive, testable way. And we didn't even talk about test tools. You can do web tests. There is a CRM load tool that enables you, specific for CRM, enables you to replay actions and simulate multiple users and so forth. Like, there is performance toolkit. There are performance counters for CRM. So there's lots and lots of things you can use. So there is a good white paper. It's about 100 pages long from Microsoft. It's called ALM for CRM 2011, 2013. Adam, I did ask, as you asked me to. It is coming. It will be forthcoming. They will update this paper for 2013. Okay. There's not much change in principle, so there will be touch-ups, but principles are all the same. This is not so much about the components as about approach in general. So CRM for 2011, that's downloadable. Just search it on Microsoft Download. I'll put this number. That's all you need to do. That's the download number, 39044. It's a PDF file, big, talks about all the different, it actually talks about deployments like multilingual across different countries. So then there is ADX ALM Toolkit. Okay, it's called adxstudio.com, easy to remember. And for those of you who are interested, there is a CRM user group. We have our last meetup for the year next month. We meet in first Tuesday of every month. It's been at Microsoft, but we're considering alternative venues, like in a city, alternating. This is meetup, Seed CRM UG, so learn about CRM. It's very strict on time, much stricter than these. Like, it's really like 15 minutes that, half an hour that, and everyone's out by 7:30 or 8 o'clock or whatever. But very strict. We've got vendor presentation. We've got some feature, 5-minute feature presentation, like 5-minute thing you didn't know about CRM. Boing, like horizontal scrolling, for example. You know, some things like that. So we've got vendors, we've got customers coming in, so it's a bit more, not so much development, it's about more about, you know, solutions and vendors and customers and how you work with CRM. Okay, so done the goals. So resources, solution packager. Now, if you're serious about developing a CRM, there is a thing called CRM Enterprise Academy. It's microsoft.com/dynamics/CRM Enterprise Academy. It's around the world. Now, we were meant to be the first one. Today I received an email rescheduling it. And I don't know what the reasons are. We guessed that we meant to go live in November here in Sydney. Mid-November was first academy around the first 2013 academy. Our guess is everyone is too busy with 2013 to be able to spare 4 days. It's a 4 days full-on hard coding, 400 level, bring it on. In Sydney it will be next year, I think March. Check it out, check the dates on this website. Look, it's people who went in, we had it for 2011, not so long ago, a couple of months ago. People came out, really positive feedback. It's not that expensive, but it does require your commitment. It's a 4 days head-splitting code. You know, it's hard stuff, 400 level. ALM Toolkit, go to ADX Studio, Visual Studio TFS, PowerShell. The book, my fellow MVPs wrote a book. Actually, I'm writing chapter for the new one, so second edition. It's called crmfieldguide.com. If you don't have one, get one. Seriously, it's a good book. It's a good book. That's about it. Thank you very much. If you have offline question, that's my address. Pub, yes.
Did you get all that? We'll take the SSW TV quiz and test your knowledge now.